The following is brought to you by American Success Stories right here at the New Talk of Dallas-Fort Worth, The Word, 94.9 FM.
This is American Success Stories with your host, Bob Roundtree. Originating from the 100,000-watt studios of KWRD-FM, The Word 94.9 FM in Dallas, Texas, American Success Stories is heard each week at this same time as noted men and women from all walks of life share their insights about how people just like you are traveling the road to extraordinary success. Here now, American Success Stories.
What happens when the runaway freight train of technological advances meets someone who has been known for relationship building and developing teams of people, multiplying their earning power and just the general enjoyment of life? Unless you know him, I don't know if you know anybody like Earl Shaw. Earl, you love people. You've made millions of dollars in what's known as network marketing, but it's been because of people. It's been because you love people, and that is really the measurement of success. Earl, welcome to the program. So glad to have you. Earl, I don't know how to describe you really or deal with you because you're so much one-of-a-kind individual, but if I did, I think I'd be taking time away from what is such an interesting story, and I don't want to do that. If you will, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story. Would you do that?
Well, Bob, Christmas week of 1986, I had gone broke, had 5 new cars taken away from me, lost my mansion on the hill, and was moving into a trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles. Lived there for 1 year exactly. Christmas week of 1987, I was moving back to Dallas into a bigger house, and that one I moved out of for Christmas of 86, and I made the trip in my new gold Mercedes.
Okay, so one time you're not on the top, you're on the bottom looking up. That's about the only place you had to look back in that trailer park.
That's a fact.
And yet you're involved again with helping people. It all gets back to people. I know that. And you know how to build. If any of y'all are listening today out there that are really interested in knowing the facts about what it takes to build a network marketing business, then you're listening to a person who has done it, and he's got a gift of teaching. Earl, what does it take to build a network marketing business?
Well, circumstances don't count when the dreams are big enough. I say it like this: can you hit a curveball? That trailer house on a dirt road, that was my curveball, but can you hit a curveball? Because life's going to throw you an occasional curveball. If you're going to play in the big league, if you're going to play in the major league, you're going to have to be able to hit a curveball. And it all starts with, forget yesterday, you can't change it, but you can change all of your tomorrows. I mean, if you lost millions yesterday, you can't get it back, it's gone, forget it. But you can make it back bigger than you ever had it before. For a backdrop, I'm going to share my story with you. There's stories and there's true stories. This is a true story. It tells you a little bit about where I'm coming from. I owned 4 electronic stores in Dallas. We sold car stereos, home stereos, and satellite dishes. Back when the dish was 10 feet instead of 18 inches. We had lots of fun. We thought we were very successful financially. The fun part, I guess you could say, was the car stereos. We built the loudest car stereo in the world. They were on national TV. They were on display in Las Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. The loudest car stereo in the world. Did you hear me? We blew out sunroofs. We busted out windshields. I'm talking about with car stereos. A lot of people wonder why I talk so loud when I'm doing these trainings. It's so I can hear what I'm saying. But we could make your nose bleed, your ears bleed. We could give you a headache for a month. So that was the fun part of the business. And the home stereos were good to us also to go along with the car stereos. Then comes along Business Week or Newsweek with a picture of the 10-foot flying saucer on the front. You know, the first version of the satellite dish. Of course, today, that 18-inch dish does more than the 10-foot one we were selling, but that one sold well. It was $3,000 to $5,000, and we became the largest retailer of the satellite dish in Dallas and Fort Worth. We were doing our part to help make that 10-foot dish the state flower of Texas. I had my mansion on the hill and 5 fancy new cars to park in front of it. We sold 80-something dishes in October, but November the 1st, HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, all those guys, they spent the millions on the lobbyist groups in Washington, and they had Congress ready to take a new vote which allowed them to scramble so people with the dishes could no longer watch HBO for free. Well, that vote changed my life rather quick. They voted on November the 1st. The newsman comes on at 6 o'clock that night and again at 10 o'clock and says, ha, 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 all you people with those dishes threw away your money. Needless to say, that was not good for my business since I had a warehouse rather full of those things. But that's the reason we went from 80 dishes in October to 0 in November. That's how fast it can change. I would tell everybody, get you a backup plan. So anyway, I was out of business in one day, but I'm sort of slow. It took me 13 months to figure it out. 13 months go by. I go to work one morning and find rather large chains and locks around my doors. You call that a clue? You're out of business. We lost our mansion on the hill and had 5 new cars taken from us. Mine was the last one to go. It was a bright red Corvette with a $15,000 stereo in it. We gutted cars from the driver's head to the rear bumper and turned it into a car stereo. And in my Corvette, there was a 15-inch woofer sitting right behind the driver's head and a 15-inch woofer sitting right behind the passenger's head. I wanted the passenger to be able to hear this music too. We would put airplane alternators on these cars and several batteries. You could drive down the highway at night with the lights on, and it took so much power to push these stereos, the beat of the bass would turn your headlights off and on as you're going down the highway. So I'm proud of my Corvette, but after they took 4 cars away from me, you call that a clue. They are looking for the Corvette, especially since I'm 3 payments past due. Well, I'm smart enough not to park it at my house. I started parking it over to a friend's house so they couldn't find it. But they found it anyway. I didn't know he was past due on his, and they were looking for his too. To make a long story short, Christmas week, the 18-wheeler backed into my yard and loaded up the furniture to move us into a trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles. And the best thing I could come up with and tell my friends that Christmas, we're getting a new trailer house for Christmas. And it didn't take me long to figure out my wife is not going to do trailer houses well at all. But here we were moving into a trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles, about 150 miles east of Dallas on I-30 there just before you get into Arkansas. I'm talking about in the woods. I had lost my mansion on the hill and 5 new cars. Yes, all the cars were gone but my fishing car. Well, it used to be my fishing car, but now it's my car. My faded out blue bomb. This thing was 10 years old with 300,000 miles on it. It was several different colors of faded out blue. It was one of those cars you pulled into the station and filled it with oil and checked the gas. It killed every mosquito within 100 yards on both sides when you go down the freeway. So the 18-wheeler had us loaded, and we were ready to head out to the trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles. And I was looking for my wife. I can't find my wife. I go back in the house looking for her, and guess where she was? She was standing in the middle of this big empty living room, and she was crying. Needless to say, her attitude was not too good. Well, I could have easily joined her crying, but if I had, we'd still be crying and living in a trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles. I spent as much money as anybody you will ever meet on the motivation, the personal development, and the self-improvement coaches. I spent enough money on Zig Ziglar to know what you're supposed to do when your wife is standing in the middle of a big empty living room crying. So I walked over and put my arm around her and said, "Don't worry about a thing, baby. You still got me." But first let me say there's a big difference between positive thinking and stupidity. I'm going to say it like this. That did not work on that particular day. She started crying louder. So I said, "Look, you know me. Give me 2 years and I'll have you in a bigger house than this one." As I'm loading her in that 10-year-old faded out blue bomb to head out for the trailer house on a dirt road, not a blacktop road within miles. "Yes, I'll have you in a bigger house than this one inside of 2 years. Well, I told her that several times over the next 6 months, and she believed me less each time I told her. So almost a year has gone by, and my life is going something like this. Sleep late, get up around 10 a.m. and travel all the way from the bedroom to the living room to lay down on the couch and worry. Yes, worry about how to make a trailer house payment, because now I'm 2 payments past due on the trailer house at $400 a month. I'm the guy that's been accustomed to running millions through the bank, and now I can't seem to figure out where to get $400. They were coming to get my trailer house. And I started getting phone calls on a regular basis from a couple of buddies of mine in Dallas. They were wanting me to come look at one of these network marketing things, and I'm saying, "I am a businessman. Leave me alone. I'm not doing one of them Amway things." But these guys were persistent, and persistence pays off. They would call back, and they would call back, and I would say, read